For me personally, I could begin with, I guess, a personal story of what it means to me. And I could only understand, of course, afterwards that story happened, what it meant. So, as everybody knows, because of the Iron Curtain, borders were closed, borders of the Soviet Union were closed. And I was born in Tallinn, in the capital of Estonia, and Helsinki is only about 80 kilometers from Tallinn. And I remember I was still a small girl. I had recently started school. I remember my first trip to Helsinki with my parents. We went on a boat, and because my grandparents lived in Helsinki, so we went to visit them for the first time. And I remember this boat ride, or ferry ride, and eating my first banana. And that was very special. I was eating it, it tasted so different. And actually I got a little bit ill because of eating the banana. And I remember it very vividly, and my parents were, joking about it. Oh, look at her, she's eating her first banana, she got ill, and they saw it as something, a little bit sweet even. And for me, it was just like, I remember the ferry ride, I was feeling ill because of the waves, and only afterwards, years after, even thinking about it now, I can truly understand what it means. It was impossible to get out of Estonia, and what it meant for my parents, because they were also going outside. They were also visiting Estonia for the first time. And they had only seen Finland from Finnish TV illegally, because Finnish TV was viewable in northern Estonia during the Soviet times, even though it was illegal. And to actually go there to see what life was like outside of the Soviet Union. So I guess this understanding for me personally, this understanding of being able to travel, being able to eat, foreign fruits, what that means in the context of a free market, of a free society. I have slowly started to understand that from those personal experiences. One of the biggest symbols, and this is also something that connects the Baltic Sea region in general and the peoples surrounding the Baltic Sea, would be the boat. As I started from the ferry ride to Finland. So the Baltic Sea itself has been throughout history a connector. But during the Soviet period, it was more of a divider, because even fishermen were not allowed to go and fish without a special permit for it. So the sea was a closed region as well. And the boat has been kind of a symbol throughout history and throughout the Soviet period as well, of freedom in a way. At the end of the 80s, when the economy started to loosen up in Estonia, and then a state-owned company, later a private company, in the 90s it became a private company acquired a ferry, which was later known as Estonia, the one that sunk in the Baltic Sea. And at the very beginning of our re-independence period, this Estonian ferry was a kind of a symbol of a white ship, a symbol of freedom. And when it sunk in 1994, it was a very significant sign for not only Estonians, but also the neighboring countries and for the world in general. A very symbolic event in a way, a ship that had been a kind of a symbol of freedom and hope sunk. And what does it mean, symbolically? this project of a regained independence of a fresh country coming out of the Soviet Union. There were a lot of debates whether the ship sunk because of the incompetence of the Estonian crew, because the majority of the crew members were Estonians. So it was mostly the Western European countries such as Finland and Sweden who were also very involved in the business. They were worried whether it's due to the Soviet mentality of the workers and not holding on to safety measures and so forth. Of course, these were, in a way, as it turned out, baseless assumptions, very much based on stereotypes about Estonia and misunderstandings of what Estonians were like, what the Soviet Union meant for them. So I guess a boat or a ship, in that sense, is a good symbol of that period, of those turning points. I wouldn't call it a chain, but more like a network of events that were interconnected in different ways. And of course the Baltic Way was a very significant happening. I was actually part of it, although I can't remember it because I was so young, but I have heard stories from my parents and from my friends and family about the event. And this year, of course, marks the 25th anniversary of the event. And there have been ideas also 5 years ago, when it was the 20th anniversary of the Baltic Way. There have been ideas to, in a way, reenact the Baltic Way and try to create something similar, just to commemorate the events. But however, yes, of course it can be done, but somehow differently, because this original event itself, it is so unique. It is only unique for those people during that period of time in that place. They had a very significant common goal they were striving towards, and they achieved it. And right now, yes, we can reenact it, but it would be in a way just a facade. So this is a unique symbol in time. It will stay in its time and in its context, and this will keep it valuable as the way it is. Right now, young people, they have an inkling of what happens. They, especially those people who are outside of, who were on the other side of the Iron Curtain, they might have heard something about that, but they're not exactly sure what the details are, and there are a lot of misconceptions still. So I guess the challenge here would be, on the one hand, to really look into that period, to understand what happened, and to create interest in young people towards that period, to create interest in young people to talk to their parents and grandparents. And the other side would be then how to spread this awareness and spread this knowledge. So once you have understood or begun to look into history, then the question is how to then, distribute this knowledge. And I think right now, in some of the Eastern European countries, awareness of history in that sense, through education and through remembrance and through campaigns, all these different channels, it's growing really strong. It's growing well. There's additional funding that's gone into these processes. However, what we still need to work on, and on the European level in general, is how to get this awareness also towards the West, where there have been a lot of misconceptions of what communism was, for example. And there's very little awareness of what kind of crimes happened under communism, whether there were crimes at all even. I mean, there are still some instances where you see that people don't understand that it was a criminal regime. So I think this is something we need to tackle, and through young people especially. And one way of doing it would be not only to research history and raise awareness of it, but bring those people together also. So make connections between the different regions, make connections between those that were under these regimes, that suffered under them, and between those who were on the other side of the wall, so to speak. And then make them meet each other, make them share what they know. Of course, there needs to be good input towards it via trustworthy materials and so forth. And a very important part is also the packaging of it all. So given that today's world is very much interconnected, it's very fast-paced, there are a lot of technological opportunities, technological ways to communicate with each other, and this needs to work towards this goal. We need to make it work for our own advantage. So interdisciplinary approaches might be helpful here. And there are, of course, a lot of similarities there, but there are also a lot of differences which result from the cultural background, the historical background, given that, Estonia, for example, is the language is different from Latvian and Lithuanian, so there are language differences. Then, religiously speaking, Estonia and Latvia are Protestant countries, and Lithuania is a Catholic country. And then, given that the sizes and populations of the countries, they're very different. So you can see it from very different viewpoints. And also the way the transition happened after 1989, it was again different. In Estonia, perhaps one of the biggest differences is that the way the government was reformed was different from both Latvia and Lithuania in the way that a lot of young people got involved in rebuilding the state system. So the state system was very much cleansed in a way from the old communist mentality, whereas perhaps compared to Latvia, for example, the measures were not as straightforward, perhaps. So they were more transitional. The transition wasn't as sharp, perhaps. And then, of course, dealing with the current situation is different because of course, the immigrants or the largely Russian-speaking minority. The sizes of all these groups are different, and therefore the way that policies are made and changed is different throughout these three countries. However, what should be shared and what are the commonalities is that the goals to be, the goals to be in the same value sphere, the same civil society sphere throughout these three countries is the same. So if we're thriving towards the same goal, towards a better democratic system, then there are these comparisons to be made that are helpful for all of us to go towards that same goal, to improve democracy, to improve the civil society.